Welcome to Just Haley, a podcast where Haley talks about whatever she just wants to talk about. Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Haley, a podcast where Haley talks about whatever she just wants to talk about. And obviously, in this episode, we are going to dive into the New Heights podcast and the interview that Jason and Travis did with Taylor over the release of Taylor's new album, The Life of a Showgirl. So, here we go. Let's jump in. This is Taylor Swift's world, and I'm just living in it. All right, so overall thoughts about the podcast. That is by far the best podcast I have ever watched, and I can't believe that we got 2 full raw hours of interaction and just listening to all of the things. That is the most that we have ever heard Taylor talk. That is really the first time that we have seen Taylor interact in detail with Travis or Jason outside of like some NFL clips in the suite around the field. So that was a lot of information and absolutely crazy that we got that insight into their lives. But there was a lot that they went over, so hold on, keep watching. There's going to be a lot of information here. My apologies in advance. But we're going to walk through the podcast mostly in order of what they talked about and then get into some extra little things, insights that I had towards the end. Let's go. So I found them starting off just absolutely hilarious that they talked about Travis's personality and him showing up to the Eras Tour with no plan in place on how to meet Taylor. Him just thinking, I am this big famous football player. I play at Arrowhead every day. I know the people who run the elevators. I'm going to go down and I'm going to meet Taylor Swift with no planning at all. Like, that just shows how much in that moment that I think he thought of himself, that he would have that power. And the fact that he is now dating Taylor Swift, who is possibly the most famous or one of the most famous people in the world and is so much bigger than him, is hilarious. But I also just found it really refreshing during the podcast to see how there was not really a lot of toxic masculinity. And so, while I don't know if that was there before, that did kind of give me the impression that there may have been some of that, and he had an inflated ego that has been brought down by dating Taylor, which I loved and is so funny. And him doing that, I don't know, I think it just proved the personality that I kind of thought that he had. But the other thing that I think is interesting is I think that he needed to fail at that for this relationship to work out. Because if he had made it into the VIP tents, or if he had made it down to meet Taylor after the show, things like that, would they have connected in an I want to date you type of way? Would that just have been like a Taylor like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, great, let's take a picture together and move on, versus the way that they met with Travis just completely shooting his shot on the podcast got so much attention that there were tons of people who were then stepping in and saying, you have to meet. Like, the Swifties were blowing it up. And then all of the people came out and were like, I know Taylor, I know Travis, let's get them together, let's do all of the things. And I think that that's what it really took to get them together and get them into the relationship that they're in. So, I mean, this was literally the shot, like shooting your shot, heard around the world is what Taylor said. And that's what got them together. And I think it was absolutely perfect. And you needed that little bit of like Travis ego to get them to where they are. It all comes full circle. Taylor also talked a little bit about Travis's personality in calling him a human exclamation point. And from all of the videos that we've seen, like his like Viva Las Vegas and like some of the other things that he's done, I think that's true. And I think that's a fantastic way to explain literally any human, especially Travis. And I found that was so funny. I also love them talking about Andy Reid and like him getting Taylor and Travis together and everyone else, because that shows a little bit of insight into who they both are. Like, there were tons of people trying to pull them together and trying to do all of the things. and get this relationship to work out. And you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that many people vouching for you if you were honestly, both of them, not amazing people who also just like deserve to be together and totally fit together and totally vibe, which I think is what we see a lot throughout the podcast. And through all of this, Travis has brought Taylor into the world of football. Taylor knew nothing about sports before this. She knew all of the halftime shows, but she didn't know any of the Super Bowls. And I mean, she literally thought, like, she didn't know that there was a defense and an offense, and she thought that Jason and Travis would have been facing off head to head in the Super Bowl or in any games that the Chiefs played the Eagles. But now she's like gone all the way to knowing defensive plays and knowing before Travis that the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy. And it's so fun to see her just completely dive into his world, and everything that they have gotten into and how genuinely excited she is. There's been so much media attention on their relationship, which is bound to happen, but a lot of people, I think they've maybe gotten away from that now because their relationship has lasted so long, but at the beginning, a lot of people are like, this is totally publicity. This is PR. No, it never was. Like, Taylor wasn't putting on a face at any of those Chiefs games pretending to cheer. Like, Taylor was actually learning football and actually getting into Travis's world, and I love that for them. The podcast was definitely more Jason interviewing Taylor. And what was interesting is they had Jason in one box on the screen and they had Taylor and Travis together in another box. And at first glance, you probably think like, okay, well, Taylor and Travis are together. Like, they are in the same room, so they're going to put them in that same view box. But I think it kind of even goes a little bit beyond that, because it really was Jason asking all of the questions. It was like Jason was interviewing Taylor and Travis as a whole, like as a combined unit. And Travis didn't say a ton. I mean, he obviously interjected, but it was mostly a Jason and Taylor interview and vibe. And I think that showed in how they structured like the viewing of it as well. It also showed Jason's emotional maturity and that he's totally a Swiftie. Jason is 100% one of us with some of the questions that he answered. Taylor was methodic in all of her answers, as always, and Travis was just his human exclamation point self. One of my favorite moments of Travis during the podcast was him reacting to and talking about Taylor getting back her master's. Taylor has completely dove into Travis's world of football, and Travis has done the same in Taylor's world. I mean, Travis literally has been to every concert that he could make it to, was like, you know, flying in and out between all of the different things and dancing and trading bracelets and knew all of the songs. And I mean, he literally went on stage in London while I was there, and performed with her, which he talked about being one of his favorite moments and how terrifying that was, and how the Swifties were even louder than NFL crowds, which I absolutely love because I was 100% losing my mind. But he has dove in further than that, in that Taylor was talking about how emotional she got when she got back her master's, and then Travis shared that he was also emotional and that he was also crying and broke down. And I think Taylor getting her master's back, it's such a big thing and there's so much history there that it deserves its own separate episode. So I'm not going to dive into that a ton specifically here. But I loved the raw emotion of that, the emotion that Taylor showed on the podcast talking about it, but then also the emotion that they talked about how they were feeling when Taylor got that phone call from her mom, because it goes beyond just a business deal. Like, this wasn't just a very expensive asset that Taylor was trying to buy in a business deal. This was her life and her legacy and literally everything that she had worked towards. And because of that, she sent her mom and her brother in to negotiate this deal, which I think is just absolutely brilliant on so many different levels, but it ties in, it brings in that family feel and that emotional aspect of how big of a deal this was to them. And I really loved it. Also, Red being Taylor's favorite album is something that I did not see coming. I love Red. It's not my favorite. Fearless is my favorite, but I did really love that for her. And like loved her talking about All Too Well, 10-minute version, and how all of that came out. So that was just really fun. Taylor and Travis also did a comparison between football and being a world famous pop star. Like a show compared to a game, a practice compared to a rehearsal, Andy Reid compared to Mama Swift. Absolutely amazing. And I don't think that I would have ever seen those comparisons and the relationships between the two, but I think that that also just helps their compatibility. I don't know, I feel like I've talked a lot about Taylor and Travis and their compatibility, but it literally all goes back to that and is so interesting to me. One other thing on Taylor getting back her master's and the mastermind of Taylor's brain and how she operates. So Taylor posted a letter on her website explaining the masters and getting those back and all of that. And one of the Easter eggs that the fans found is that the word "this" had 12 eyes in it. Well, now what happens when you click those 12 eyes is it actually leads you to the track list for TS12, which is so fun and amazing and absolutely brilliant. And something, I mean, we called out like the 12 eyes, but just her linking them together now is so fun. And literally whoever figured that out is a genius, because I never would have thought to go back to that letter and click on the eyes. The things that Swifties do sometimes just amazes me. Also, in case you're wondering, Taylor has given us permission to now listen to whatever we want. Original version, Taylor's version, whatever your heart desires, go for it. She owns it all. You can now do anything you want. Taylor isn't just a mastermind in the art of negotiations. The Eras Tour was also a sign of Taylor's geniusness. Now, I mean, the Eras Tour was almost 4 hours long. It was huge. It had so many different elements to it, and all of that was strategically planned. Like, she wanted the ballet, the Broadway, the opera, all of the different things, and she wanted it so quickly. Like, she said she literally wanted it to be changing every 15 to 30 seconds. You're getting a new experience so that you stay pulled in and you stay tuned, which I think is why it went so viral. Like, it wasn't just Taylor on stage singing and showing her music. It was truly a mastermind genius, theatrical, technical performance that, I mean, people literally admitted to having amnesia. Like, it is just this rapid fire. Like she said, it's just like scrolling, like doom scrolling, right? And you just get sucked in and you don't realize how much time has gone by and you don't remember what you've watched and what you've seen, and you leave and you're just like, what was that? And she definitely, from everything that I experienced and that other fans that I've talked to have experienced, she achieved that 100%. But I thought that that was just really cool. Outside of the Eras Tour, Taylor shared that we share a very exciting hobby, sourdough bread. I actually have a loaf cold proofing in the fridge right now, and I love it. Taylor has gone a lot further down this path than I have, because she has started experimenting with all the different flavors, with the cinnamon swirl and the lemon blueberry and all of the different things. She even mentioned funfetti for Jason's kids. I love that. It's something that I've wanted to try but haven't quite gotten that adventurous yet. I'm really just going with like the standard loaves right now. But something typical in the sourdough world is naming your loaves of bread or your starter. It's often something really punny. Like my starter is Albus Dumbledore, like Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter. But Taylor is also a fan of Taylor. Like she's a Swiftie herself because she has created all of the Taylor Swift puns about bread and baking. The ones that she mentioned, are you ready for it? Baby, just say yeast. Flower song is the slammin' screen door. Loafing him was bread. It's a loaf story. I should have said dough. And I have come up with my own additional puns that I would like to add to this list. Bake it off. Breader man. This one's good. I fakasha you existed. You belong with Brie. It's so fun, and I love that Taylor is a part of it. And I really hope that some of the sourdough blogs that I am on, she is also on, because in the words of Taylor Swift, girl, I'm on your blog. Travis also mentioned his own hobby, watching videos of otters, because one day he wants to rescue an otter and then own it and potentially feed it sourdough bread. But in the words of Taylor, it is better in principle than in practice, and I would agree. Taylor talked about her first Chiefs game that she went to, where the Chiefs played the Bears, and she literally walked through the front door. She had a hat on, she had a mask on, nobody knew she was coming. There were rumors about them dating, but we didn't actually know she would be there. And she literally just straight up with Travis's friends walked through the front door, showed someone her ticket, and went up to the suite. And it makes me kind of wonder how many other things has she done like that in the real world that none of us knew about, because she made it all the way to the suite, and the first time that anyone realized that she was there when she was shown on the Jumbotron, and then social media went crazy and it was one of the most viewed NFL games. Talking about social media and that blowing up, they did talk about the social media attention on Taylor and Travis and their relationship, but Taylor did confirm what a lot of us had suspected, in that she's not on social media a lot. You'll see every once in a while Taylor will like a post here, like a post there, different things like that, but she's not super active, and I think a lot of that is because all of the attention that's on her, some of it positive, some of it negative. Except she did, I love this so much, she did stalk Travis. Probably, I don't know if maybe like before they started dating or at what point in the relationship, but she stalked him on Twitter because she brought up his post from years ago about a squirrel on Twitter. So that just brings validation to all of the stalking, internet stalking, that I have done in my own life. And now we're here. We have made it. You have stayed tuned for minutes on end to get to the big new news that all the Swifties have been dying for. The release of The Life of a Showgirl, to be released on October 3rd. 10/3. 10 plus 3 is 13. It's everywhere. I'm stoked because Taylor confirmed what we were all hoping for, in that she is going back to pop music. She's bringing back Max Martin and Shellback, who produced with her on Red in 1989, which are her two biggest pop albums. And it's going to be full of pop bangers, anthems, all the things. Dance party, let's go. I'm stoked for it. What I did find kind of interesting though is the names of the songs. Like, they're not really, to me at least, giving the vibe of pop music. They're still giving off the like folklore, tortured poets department Evermore vibe. So this could get interesting. But let's go through the set list. Starting off at number 1, The Fate of Ophelia, Elizabeth Taylor, Opalite, Father Figure, Eldest Daughter, Ruin the Friendship, Actually Romantic, Wish List, Wood, Cancelled, Honey, and Life of a Showgirl featuring Sabrina Carpenter. And as I said, the names don't come off as popish. They're giving like this ethereal vibe. I've been doing a little bit of background research into some of the songs and seeing what I can figure out, like specifically with like Elizabeth Taylor, things like that. So more to come when we get closer to the release date on some speculations about what I think this album might entail. The one thing that I'm super excited for, do we think that Ruin the Friendship is about Blake Lively? I mean, there's been some silence on that front. As I mentioned in previous episodes, the color of this album or this era is orange. And some of the very sleuth Swifties have realized that Kanye West had an orange album called Life of Pedro. Life of a Showgirl, Life of Pedro. I don't think this is all a coincidence. I love that Taylor explained the cover art of the album, especially because a lot of people have really been digging on it. They're saying that there were much better photos out there relating to some of the photos that have been released for the album. And she explained that the picture that she chose represents the end of a night for her at the end of the Eras tour, when she gets in the bathtub and starts her recovery phase. And it symbolizes where the tour ends and her real life starts. And I think that that's exactly what we are going to get with this album. We are going to get the deep dive into her personal life and what was going on behind the scenes and those feelings and everything else. And I think that that just is very real and magical. And with anything that Taylor does, there were most definitely Easter eggs during the podcast. Taylor actually called out an Easter egg that everyone had already found and had already really kind of come to light, which is the orange door at the end of Karma, which is the last song on the Eras tour, because at most shows at the end of the Eras tour, Taylor exited down through the stage, like through an elevator in the stage. But the very last night, she went out the back. There was an orange door in the back, and she left through that door. And it symbolized her leaving the Eras tour behind and entering into the era of TS12. And what I found really interesting about this is that orange door had been there for a long time. It had been there before the release of the Tortured Poets Department. So this was an Easter egg that Taylor was planning on doing way in advance of TS11. So I kind of wonder if Tortured Poets was a completely unplanned album, but Taylor felt she needed to release it due to what was going on with her life. And she talked a little bit about how TS12 is only going to have 12 tracks. It's not going to be Tortured Poets, where it was this mass dump of information in all of these songs, which also maybe makes me think that Tortured Poets was a little bit more like, I have all of these things going on, I have all of these feelings, all of these life changes, and I need to get that off of my chest. Whereas this is more of a curated, planned, very specific album, which it makes me very excited to see the slimmed down, like, here's really truly, I have to put a lot of thought and a lot of time into the 12 songs because it is limited to just 12 songs, that they are going to be really solid and really Taylor's best work. There were also a lot of things said on the show that Swifties are already kind of pulling out and guessing are Easter eggs. But at this time, we really don't know, and only time will tell. As I've already mentioned, talking about some of the previews, behind Taylor and Travis, there were 4 TS signs. There was orange, red, purple, and white, which we have figured out are the 4 variants of the album. There was also a Pinocchio on the shelf, which I think probably relates to her song Wood. And I'm wondering if that's maybe somehow like tied into like lying, being a liar, something like that. There was an NFL trophy turned sideways and mentions of the number 60 and 47. And the sideways NFL trophy and the numbers that Taylor mentioned, as well as Taylor's mention of her sourdough hobby, has led fans to believe that Taylor is performing at the halftime show of the next Super Bowl. And I don't have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, we'll see. What the speculation is that the double mention of the number 47 relates to the 47th stop on her tour, which was at Levi's Stadium, which is where the Super Bowl is being held this year. The NFL trophy being sideways, kind of at that like angle, represents half, some way like halftime show. Taylor also mentioned the number 60 as a side note, just to throw it out there. 47 plus 13 equals 60 because we always have to bring 13 into it. But this will be Super Bowl 60. The 49ers play at Levi's Stadium, and the 49ers mascot is Sourdough Sam. I mean, yes, all of these things come together and you could get there. And Taylor has said before that if she ever owned all of her music, she may be open to playing at an NFL halftime show, but I'm not buying it. Like, if we look at some of the other, like, very clear, this was obviously an Easter egg, or Taylor has called it out as an Easter egg, and it's not like some fan-made Swiftie clowning fiction, whatever. They've been very obvious. Like, the orange door was put in front of us like a really big platter and just laid out there for us to recognize and realize. And I think this kind of dive into the 47th show and the 60th Super Bowl, I mean, maybe. I would love it if I was wrong and if we got that little extra Taylor glimpse this year. But I'm not buying it. And what I am potentially buying with the number 47, because I do think that that's significant considering it was mentioned twice when she said Jason screamed for 47 seconds and that she had been to 47,000 countries, is Ophelia in Hamlet dies in Act 4, Scene 7. So there's potentially your 47 or the tie-in there. But I'm sure there's other Easter eggs that we didn't even catch on to and are going to come out over time, and we're going to see how it all plays out. And who knows, maybe we'll see Taylor at a halftime show, but personally, that's just one that I am not buying. Thank you for sticking with me so far. I know this has been long and there has been a lot of information and craziness, but we are going to wrap up this episode with one of my favorite segments. Make today a great day, and if it's not, just change it. All right, today's Just Change It was inspired by Miss Taylor Allison Swift when she said, "Think of your energy as if it's expensive, like it's a luxury item and not everyone can afford it." It's so true. You got to give your energy in the places and to the people who deserve it and who are worth spending it on. So find those activities, find those people, and spend your energy there this week. Don't just give it away for free.